Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen, the DNC has just been caught red-handed in something just so sinister, so corrupt, and so dangerous to democracy itself. Kind of makes Watergate look like a clerical error. Guys, we now have undercover footage, yes, on camera, of top Democratic operatives admitting that Joe Biden was not running the country. And more importantly, that somebody else was pulling the strings from behind the curtain. Can you believe this, guys? And that's not even the worst part, believe it or not. Because at the same time that these tapes were being recorded, the FBI was actively suppressing some key evidence in the January 6th pipe bomb case. And we got former agents on record confirming that they were blocked, they were misled, and they were even diverted from investigating certain leads. Why do you think this is, folks? Guys, this is no longer speculation. This is no longer conspiracy, if you will. This is confirmation. Guys, we're talking about a secret president, a hidden room, and a coordinated effort to bury the truth from the DNC to the DOJ. Guys, stick with me because in the next couple of minutes, I want to share with you guys the exact moment a DNC official spills the truth about who was really making decisions in Biden's White House, the brand new tip that the FBI just received that could finally crack the January 6th pipe bomber case, the stunning discovery that was found in a forgotten FBI room, evidence hidden inside the Comey era, and of course, why Elon Musk, Dan Bongino, and Kash Patel are all pointing in the same direction. By the end of today's video, my goal is to help you guys understand exactly why they've been lying, who's been covering this up, and what exactly is going to happen next. So if you appreciate the daily news updates, please take a second, hit the like button for the video, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate your support, guys. So this is no longer theory anymore. There's video evidence now. Recently released hidden camera recordings captured some top DNC insiders casually admitting that Joe Biden is not running the show. Can you believe this? And they weren't even guessing. They were speaking with absolute certainty. We're talking about Democratic Party leadership confessing on tape that the President of the United States is not the one that's making decisions, not on policy, not on personnel, not even on executive orders. Wow. Yeah. So instead, they describe a shadow structure, a behind-the-scenes network that's been guiding national decisions without any voter input or oversight. Does this sound like the deep state to you guys? And folks, this wasn't just some fringe comment. One of the individuals caught on tape was Vice Chair at the DNC, David Hogg. Now, he let it slip, and the arrangement had been going on for years, and that everybody around Joe Biden knew it. But who was really pulling the strings? Was it Joe Biden? Well, guys, that's where it gets even darker. Remember the name Anthony Bernal, okay? Now, you've probably never heard of him, but according to the DNC tape, this man may have been acting as the de facto president of the United States. Bernal was Joe Biden's top advisor. But according to footage, he was functioning more like a puppet master, essentially wielding enormous power over cabinet heads, departments, and even national security discussions. One DNC official described him as a Wizard of Oz, essentially like a Wizard of Oz figure that was basically someone with total power, yet completely unknown to the public. Do you guys remember the old school Wizard of Oz show, Pay No Attention to the Man Behind the Curtain? Yeah. He's probably that guy. Now, ask yourself this. Why would members of the president's own cabinet bypass Joe Biden and report directly to Bernal? Why would Bernal, an unelected, unconfirmed, largely invisible political operator, be one of the alleged most powerful men in the United States, if not the world, issuing directives? And how deep did this go? Well, I want to get into that next. Because when you hear about what Ron Klain and the auto pen scandal have to do with all this raises terrifying possibilities that laws were passed, pardons were issued, bills and executive orders may have been signed without the president even knowing. Yeah, but this is just the beginning, guys, because while the DNC was orchestrating things from the shadows, guess who was supposed to be investigating crimes like the J6 pipe bombings? Guys, you're going to learn exactly why the FBI's top brass may have been intentionally burying leads and how newly discovered hidden files might finally break this wide open. Now stick with me, guys, because I want to share with you guys that the FBI is in fact in crisis, investigating the investigators, and trust me, you're going to want to see exactly what they found in that so-called not so hidden room. Now, of course, I need to ask you, are you signed up for a Medicare plan and realizing it's not working for you? Well, let's go ahead and fix it. It's easy. Leslie Taylor did, and she's saving $1,000 a year. Sharon Batusik, she lost her Medicaid, but Chapter helped helped her land a plan with zero premiums, zero medication costs, and copays dropped from $89 as low as $20 for her. Now, think about it. What could you do with an extra $1,000 a year, right? Groceries, gas, who knows, right? Anyway, Chapter compares every plan, not just the ones that they're shown in the mail. No pressure, no cost. It's totally free. You gotta love that. You can reach Chapter at 909-563-8279 or visit them at askchapter.org/Ron. If your plan's not working for you, I promise you, Chapter will. So here's where things really start connected in ways that should pretty much terrify anybody who's still believing in law and order. According to former Secret Service agent technically their former Secret Service agent turned FBI deputy director, Dan Bongino, the pipe bomb case tied to the January 6th situation was quietly reopened the moment he and Kash Patel took office. Why? Because despite being one of the most high-profile federal crimes in modern history, the original investigation was shockingly dormant. Why do you think it went dormant under the previous administration? And now, of course, let's not forget, 2 pipe bombs were planted the night before the Capitol riot, one at the DNC and one at the RNC. Security footage, time-stamped tracking data, and witnesses reporting all of that existed, and yet no arrests, no suspects, no results, until now. So Dan Bongino, he revealed that once the new leadership took over, they immediately formed a team, they began pursuing the new leads, and this is key, guys. This is key, okay? They began receiving anonymous tips, including one very credible lead just this morning. And how were they getting these tips? They were not getting them through official channels. They were actually getting them through social media posts. Let that sink in, guys. The FBI had to crowdsource leads from the public because internal intel had either been buried, blocked, or worse, was never pursued at all. Now let me ask you guys, because they buried this, would you be willing to share information that you happen to know that could help them crack this case wide open? I'm just wondering, because apparently the public is willing to help. But the deeper you dig, the more you realize this wasn't just incompetence. In fact, this may have actually been sabotage. Would you really be surprised though? So Dan Bongino, he did not hold back. He said outright that the FBI had been infiltrated by partisan actors, calling them bad agents, still causing trouble. And what they found inside the Bureau, a room, not just any room that was filled with unprocessed evidence, dusty files, and hidden records, all from the era of James Comey, material that had never been digitized, never cataloged into the FBI system, and may have been intentionally excluded from oversight. One document dump confirmed political interference in multiple cases. Dan Bongino said, look, it was as if a shadow FBI had been running inside the Bureau itself. Now, let me say that again. We now have 2 overlapping shadow governments, the DNC's secret internal hierarchy and the Comey era loyalists inside the FBI. They're both working in the dark. They're both hiding evidence and both possibly connected to the J6 pipe bomb case. So now the question is, why wasn't this case solved years ago? Who blocked it? Who benefited from this silence? Well, here's where it gets even more damning. I want to expose the alleged cover-up, and I want to ask the big question, guys. And this is the question a lot of people have been asking me, and I want to share the intel that we have. Was the FBI ordered to back off by someone connected to the DNC? And what does the White House cocaine story and the Epstein cell video have to do with the same pattern of cover-ups and delay tactics? Well, you do not want to miss what comes next, guys, because we now know the FBI had footage. They had timestamps, they had surveillance, and yet they had no suspects for nearly 4 years. Guys, let's be honest with ourselves, right? Is this even possible? Dan Bongino, he laid it out pretty clearly. This was not a lack of resources. It was a lack of willpower, or worse, a deliberate directive to back off. So we ask, did somebody in the DNC tell the FBI to stand down? Could there have been some political pressure applied from the same people caught on tape admitting Joe Biden really wasn't in charge? Because if Anthony Bernal, Jill Biden's top aide and the alleged shadow president, was truly running the show behind closed doors, then who else knew? Who else was protecting this guy, right? And could the very location of these bombs, the DNC headquarters, be more than just a coincidence? I don't know. But we're not just looking at this botched investigation, guys. We're now looking at what could be the intentional suppression of national security threats because it risked embarrassing or even exposing the wrong people. And folks, this is not a pattern. This is more than just a pattern. You know, I feel like a pattern would be understating it, right? This is more than just a pattern. Dan Bongino confirmed that other cases were also left cold because when he took over, cases that had gone dark, not because of a lack of leads, but because of basically someone had chose to ignore them. So now we're talking about the White House cocaine incident. You guys remember that? The first assassination attempt against President Trump, and yes, of course, the Jeffrey Epstein cell footage. Every single one of these cases shares a disturbing similarity: sensitive targets, mass public interest, and zero resolution until now. So here's a twist. Dan Bongino says a video will be released very soon from Epstein's cell. It shows clear as day that no one else entered the cell but Epstein himself. But ask yourself, why are we just now seeing this now? Because the Epstein case, much like the pipe bombs, like the cocaine, was concealed, or it was sealed and shelved until the right people were in place to open it again. And this is not just incompetence. That's what I would call obstruction. They did it to protect Epstein's network. So who are they protecting in the J6 pipe bomb case? Right? So I want to go ahead and pull the curtain back on the media a little bit. I want to ask, who buried the DNC tapes for years? Why did CNN suddenly flip and admit that they dropped the ball? Plus, of course, we got to talk about the bizarre 8647 beach message from James Comey that sparked a flood of FBI tip line chaos. What was it really about? And who is still trying to distract the public? Well, I want to be blunt, guys. CNN, they knew. They had access. They had resources. They heard the same whispers from inside the White House and the DNC that independent outlets were screaming about for years. But what did they do? They mocked. They discredited, they censored. Every time somebody pointed out that Joe Biden seemed checked out or that someone else might be making decisions, they slapped on a label: conspiracy theorist, disinformation, debunked. But now, even Jake Tapper's admitted they dropped the ball. He literally said, "I wish we had covered the story better." This is like CNN's top guy. Now, why would he say that now? Because the DNC tapes are real, because they got caught, and because the public trust in mainstream media has collapsed, and they're now scrambling to get ahead of the backlash. But it wasn't just what they ignored. It's what they amplified that caused even more damage. Let's rewind to former FBI Director James Comey, the man at the center of so many freaking scandals. I mean, he's now walking the beach and posting these cryptic messages, images, and numbers like 8647. Harmless? Dan Bongino says absolutely not. Because the moment James Comey posted that, the FBI tip lines exploded. Agents were diverted from real cases like the pipe bomb cases, like Epstein, like Trump's assassination attempt, to go chase nonsense leads because, based on shell codes and internet sleuthing. Now, Bongino, he called it for what it was: a deliberate distraction, provocation, a manipulation of the system. And it worked. Countless hours were lost, serious leads were missed, and James Comey, he got to play the victim while milking a book deal and undermining the very bureau that he once led. Now, folks, this was never about the truth. This was about protecting the narrative, discrediting the dissent, and deflecting from what was really happening inside the FBI and the DNC. And so right now, more and more Americans than ever are demanding full disclosure, not just from the DNC tapes, but on the entire J6 pipe bomb case. They want all surveillance released, all files declassified, all leads publicly vetted, and the response? Dan Bongino confirmed more footage is coming, not just from January 6th, but from Epstein's cell, from the Comey era hidden room, from cases that were buried on purpose. But here's the thing, it's not just about the footage, it's about truth, consequences, and restoring what the American people lost, which is trust. Because, let's not sugarcoat it, there are still leftover loyalists from the Comey era still inside the Bureau. Dan Bongino already confirmed that. He said he and Kash Patel, they were blocked from certain rooms, kept from certain documents, and found evidence stored in bags instead of the official record system. That's not a mistake. That's not bureaucracy. That's a coordinated system of concealment, a shadow network within a federal law enforcement agency. And if the FBI can be compromised from the inside, what else can be? Who else is still pulling the strings? And how long has this been happening? Now, that's really the million-dollar question at this point. Because now that the DNC tapes are out, now that the FBI internal sabotage has been exposed, now that we know that the J6 January 6th bomb case was buried on purpose, who gets held responsible? If this was all a mistake, prove it. But if it wasn't, then somebody needs to resign, be subpoenaed, or prosecuted, put in jail. And that includes the DNC officials who concealed Biden's incapacity, the unelected aides who allegedly ran the country, the FBI actors who derailed investigations, and anybody in the media who knowingly helped cover this thing up. The evidence is overwhelming. Dan Bongino confirmed that, during his first weeks at the FBI, and he and Kash Patel were actively blocked from accessing certain rooms. And when they did gain access, they discovered boxes of Comey-era materials, files that had never been digitized, never cataloged, and were deliberately hidden from the system. Let that sink in, guys. The FBI, an organization built on evidence and transparency, had an entire cache of documents literally in bags. If that's not a definition of a deep state, I don't know what is, right? This wasn't just disorganization. This was intentional obstruction carried out by loyalists who were more committed to protecting a political agency than protecting the law. And these same bad actors, they're the ones who let the January 6th bomb case sit cold. They're the ones who hid leads about Epstein, about White House security breaches, and more. And they're still there. And so the question now is, will they be rooted out or rewarded? So this is where everything comes to a head, guys. We now have DNC operatives on tape admitting Joe Biden wasn't in control. We got a senior aide, Anthony Bernal, Jill Biden's top advisor, acting as the shadow president, FBI insiders confirming internal sabotage and hidden evidence. We've got investigations into January 6th, Epstein and the White House cocaine finally being reopened after years of silence. So what now, right? Will there be indictments? Will there be hearings? Will Anthony Bernal, Ron Klain, or James Comey be dragged in front of Congress to answer for their roles? I think the answer is clear. The answer depends on you, because this only explodes if millions of Americans demand justice, not just in the comments, but in the voting booths, in their communities, and in the court of public opinion. If this happened in any other country, we would call it what it is: a coup, a media conspiracy, a law enforcement cover-up. But this is our country, guys. I think that this means that we don't just expose the corruption, we need to end it. Is anybody on board with me on this one? So here's what you need to do right now. Blast this video everywhere. Comment down below, should the January 6th bomb files be released in full? Just yes or no will do. And tell me, who should testify under oath next? Because they can cover their tracks, they could silence their critics, but they can't stop all of us. And there's millions of us. So we are the new media. We are the new resistance, and we will not be silenced. Hit the like button, guys. Comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next. Hey, by the way, guys, if you're one of the real ones who really enjoy what we do here on the channel, you've got to check out the Inner Circle. This is where our true supporters get exclusive access to content that I just can't share here, completely commercial free. It's also the best way to keep this channel going strong. So if you want to be a part of something special, join us over there. Links in the description or in the pinned comment down below.